Hey, welcome to another day here in my car shop. Today we're going to spend some time making the template for the front part of this frame rail that we looked at in our last episode. Let's watch the show intro and I will see you in 30 seconds.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Cars Shop.
Told you it wouldn't be long. Here we are. It's a really windy day here, which means that the shop isn't going to heat very well, but we'll get some temperature going in here and we'll get after this. Today I want to start laying out that template and getting things exactly ready to cut the sheet metal out to make this front part of the frame rail, as I mentioned in the brief intro. So yeah, there's just a lot going to be happening today, and we can talk about it or we can do it. So I want to share my thoughts with you, but let's do that while we're actually doing something other than standing here keeping the car from floating away. Here we are in my favorite place in the world. And I'm checking the template from the other side of the car just to see how it lines up. It should be obviously the same. It's darn close. So we're in really good shape here. Again, we were short on the front, and I don't know how much you can see. Yeah, we can see it all. We're a little short up here. I'm probably going to spend some more time with this, even though the way I designed the one on the other side, I allowed, how do I want to say it? I have a design in mind to tying in the subframe connector, so it's not exactly factory. I'm going to wing that once I get there, but I think I'm probably going to do pretty much the same thing here, which means that I'll make this a lot longer. And yeah, we'll just let that unfold as it is. And I need to be a lot longer up here. I want this to be about another 6 inches. So I think I'm going to take this template and create another template that gets me exactly where I want to be, so I can get all of this stuff lined up. Up in here, can you see that? Yeah, you kind of can, but you can't pull it down here. So I want this to be about 6 inches longer. Let me scooch up there so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I was talking about is I want, for strength, if you're going to do these sheet metal frames, you need to have a good overlap. And if you've seen the other episodes, you'll see that I've created a lot of overlap in the frame as I've pieced when I did the one on the other side. So I've got a much better idea what I want to do here. And I literally will have an entire frame rail made that I can just put in the car all at once, so I can weld this all up on the bench and make it a lot easier on myself. I'm not saying 100% that's what I'm gonna do, but you know me, I just figured out as I go here. So I'm gonna make this new template, or actually, now that I think about it, I'm not going to make a new template, but rather I am going to just tape onto this one and make it the way I want it to be. It is very nice to have this 1974 workbench here in the shop that I can work on. The car's not painted yet, so why not take advantage of the flat surfaces besides storing crap, which I tend to do. Fortunately, as you saw a couple episodes ago, I had to pull the cars out. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of make this piece about that big there and trace this where I want it here, so I know exactly where my dimensions are, and then I can take this piece down there and kind of fit it and fill it in where I want it to be. Always make your templates bigger than they need to be, so you can trim them down. Same thing down here. Pretty much just going to put that right at the bottom edge and then just trace this out. And I can't say enough, spend the money, and I think these were, I don't know, I don't remember what they cost, $2-3 a piece for this poster board. It probably wasn't even that much. I wish you could still get the 4-foot pieces. They used to get them, I think, 24 by 36, I think it was. Maybe there's other places you can, but so again, I want to come way beyond this. And my intention is not to duplicate the factory way that this comes down here and hoops up and so forth into the floor pan because of my mental design of how I want to do the subframe connector. So maybe I'll go into that with you a little bit here because I haven't put it on paper yet, and I can just do it on this cardboard here actually. So what I want to do, if you remember the other side at the bottom right now kind of comes out like this. Let's get something to write on here. Hold on. Okay, an old piece of floor pan template is going to work good for this. So if you remember, the frame rail comes down and joins into that cross member in the car, and then it sticks way under here, and it's almost got kind of like a C-channel down here at the bottom. So what I'm hoping to do, what I want to do, is connect my subframe connector in there and have it just actually drop into that, and then be able to weld it along in here. Of course, it'll be welded here. There'll probably be a piece of plate in here to help give that strength where this joins together, and then it'll continue on up to the front of the car. So I want to kind of duplicate that design in here, I think. So I need to just measure the other side and see how far this comes up before I make that decision. But that's kind of what I think I'm going to do. I think it's about like that. So we'll just quickly check that and go from there. Okay, so it's about 3.5 inches beyond the end of where this goes into the frame, and this is not quite, it's a little bit off. So this is going to be really close. So I want to just cut this out and just make it work. Excuse me. Again, we'll have the piece down on the inside. The L pieces that I made last time will be in there. It'll be capped. Basically a replication of the last frame piece that I did on the driver's side. So I wished I could just like magic wand clone that and have it work. But we'll tip the top edge again like we did in last time. And the only thing I need to do is, like I said, add on up here so that I have room for overlap with the other piece of frame that I've already made, and that is not really in the car but is just sitting in place right now, so that we have a good overlap to weld those two together, so we have a good strong piece there, so it's not weak where we only have like a little teeny bit of overlap. Alright, so we've got it all laid out now, and we can go down underneath the car and start laying out the profile that we want and trimming things out how we want them. Obviously there's a lot to do yet, but I want to make sure I got this exactly the way it needs to be, and then we'll transfer it over onto metal and go through what we do, how we do it, and we'll go from there. At this point, the only way I'm going to be able to really lay that out is to get this other chunk of frame out of here, get it out of the way. Which is why it's not attached. There we go. Good. So that gives me a lot of clearance and space to figure out exactly how I need to trim this. It's a bit of a challenge because it's long on both ends, obviously, but it's all good. Okay, yeah, I gotta trim that up, obviously, and it's not quite laying in like I would like it to, so can't tell exactly. There we go. That's, I think, where it needs to be. So, yeah, get my skizzers here. Yeah, pretty good, actually. So you can see I'm just kind of forming the cardboard in there. I can almost take a knife and trim it where I want it, and I may do that. Not exactly how I want it yet. It's not quite, there we go. It was just a little bit high up there. So you can see it's kind of sticking up higher. I think I got a pretty good idea where it needs to go now. So I'll take my scissors and trim that. and be right back. Okay, now I'm trying to get a feel for the front, how that fits in there. The back fits fine, so that's good. So I want to figure out how I'm going to do this up in here. Again, being a little bit more detail oriented on this side than I was on the other side, because I've done it once now. I've got a little better instinctive feel for how it's going to go. So I'm just going to kind of make a couple of slits here and make a couple of marks, and hopefully it'll work. I don't have anything to make a mark with. Let's get this screwdriver over here. I think that's going to work just fine to make the mark that I want. Okay, there we go. That works. Oh yeah, pushed right pretty much on the edge of the tape. Okay, good. Let's get that cut. Okay, good. So it's got the flanging piece on there that I want now, and I can just come in here and cut this so it's straight. Cool. Good. And then that'll kind of get underneath there where it needs to be to go up ahead. So yeah, that's kind of good. So we'll just cut this off here now. And my templates aren't necessarily perfect. Don't care if they are. I'm looking for something that follows the contour and go from there. So that's pretty good. Kind of goes up where I want it up there like the other side does. Follows up all the way. So let's turn you this way so you can see. I think you can see up in here, maybe. Now you can, okay. And then this comes right up around and will give me a nice 6-inch overlap up in here on that frame. So I think that's a good template. I think I'm comfortable with that, and it's going to work well. All right, so you can see what we've got here, and it's not laid out perfect, and I have not trimmed this up in here yet. I will, but right now I'm just getting a rough idea of where it goes. It's ish like this. I know the top profile is good. I'm not worried about the bottom one. I will come in here and blend this together as I see fit here in just a minute. But this is pretty much how this is going to fit together. Give or take, this could be slid this way. And so, yeah, I think it's going to work good. We're going to have a really nice, strong overlap. And, well, you can kind of see it. I mean, it's a pretty much an entirely hand-fabricated frame rail. Back you up so you can get a bigger picture. I could potentially fit this in the car, take this on here like so, and bring it back out. I don't know that that's necessary to do. Maybe. But I think I more want to, I'm going to leave this extra large in here for now so that I can blend this together. I know I need to trim this up here. You can see where that was on the other one. So I'll trim that up in there like so, just so it's close. And then as we're fabricating, we will take that the rest of the way. All right, so there you get the idea. I trimmed this a little bit, but again, I want to leave myself some latitude in here. I don't have a blueprint that I'm going by, so I'm just kind of winging it. I know I'm kind of low in here, but I'm going to leave that for now. I'm sure I'll trim it up higher because of where my overlap is going to be. I mean, the piece behind goes all the way to here, so we've got a good 6 inches plus of, yeah, a good 5.5, 6 inches of overlap there. So I'm really feeling good about that. It's going to make that extra nice and strong. So yeah, I think we're pretty good. This down here, pretty much is where that subframe connector is going to drop into place. And I'm even thinking that I'll try to bring it back inside the frame some this way. So we'll have even some extra work. It's tempting to make the subframe connector myself out of tin. Tempting. I don't think I'm going to. I think it's just faster to buy a piece of box tube, but well, for one thing, it would be stronger, and I think that is a more critical piece. I could make it out of 16 gauge or 14 gauge, but I really think that just buying a piece of 1/8 wall box tube is the fastest way to do it. If you think about it, there's a lot of torque on that, and I'll explain why. So as I mentioned, the where the spring mounts, the front of the spring is right in here-ish. Let's say it's right here-ish. So this is on a Mopar where all of the torque is up on the suspension, right here, right? So on a Mopar, the front half of the leaf spring is completely stiff. It's not sprung, it's just there kind of to work like a, I mean, it flexes a little bit, but it pretty much does this. It does not flex in the middle. So all of the spring in the back is in the back. So when you launch your Mopar, all of the up force is right here in this frame, right? Okay. So if you put your subframe connector tied into this part of the frame where all of this is down in here, it really gives that a lot of rigidity and strength and stiffens up the whole chassis. The back of it, for the most part, it's not pulling down on it very much. A little bit, I'm not going to say none. But if you've ever watched a leaf spring car launch, if anything, depending on how the car is built, it actually might pick the back end up a little bit. I've seen them do that. They generally don't pull down a huge amount on the back. It's all this up force in here is where it really drives that car. So having this more than just a tin mount, as you've seen in the episodes where we put the other side in, and carrying that forward more helps. If I really was going to get crazy about traction, I would probably look at putting something like a Caltrax bar system in it that would take the instant center from the rear axle and move it from just the spring eye and move it way forward into the car. The ideal point, if you're looking at this dart, let's see if you can see it. Yeah, the ideal point on a Mopar is right up in here somewhere in the center of this chassis to pick up. That's why a Mopar will, or any drag car, will pick the front end up, because it's got its leverage point way up in here somewhere to put a lot more plant on those tires. So getting into a little bit suspension geometry, I've spent a lot of time studying it and so forth, but so I'm thinking through, torsional geometry on the chassis and where my points of concern are, and I'm not concerned about that much. It's all going to be in here where that is pounding up on that frame. So hence why I'm kind of designed this to drop that box tube in, maybe plug weld, I'm not sure. We'll figure that out as we go, but I kind of had this loosely in mind, even though I didn't spend a lot of time designing it. I didn't lay all my cards on the table early on, I suppose, with what I was thinking, and I tend to have an intuition on what needs to happen and then just kind of build it as I go. So plus I got to leave some surprises for you guys. I can't throw all my tricks on the table in the beginning, right? So our next steps will be to get this laid out on sheet metal, get it cut out. I have to obviously allow that 3/4 of an inch more up here on the template so that I can tip the edge. And I'll get Becky out to help me tip the edge again like she did last time. I talked to her about it. We were thinking about doing it this weekend, but both of us have felt a little bit under the weather this weekend, and we're both just a bit tired. It's been an exhausting week for sure. So I wanted to come out and get this laid out today, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, I've got to leave that so I can tip that edge over. Again, I will make the L out of the steel like I did last time, to lay all of this profile out in here, and of course it will come forward up into here like the other side did, and then we'll be able to have that capped off like last time. So if you haven't seen that episode, it'll be up there if I remember to put it in when I was making this and all of the pieces and how it went. So I'm going to have a few hours of making the metal. I want to be able to excuse me, get the car out of here, at least one if not both of the cars in the center of the shop, and lay the sheet metal out again and be able to just whip this stuff out with the plasma cutter fast. I'm at a point right now where I've just got a lot going on and I want to get stuff done as quickly as possible. I normally enjoy the slower pace, but right now it's get her done. I got a burn on here, and I got other things that need to be happening here very soon, and I want to get this car back on the ground again. So just to refresh your memory on this side, I had put this piece of tin in temporarily and I didn't weld everything in place. How easy will it be to come in here and slice this back out again, drop that piece of box tube down in there, weld it to the frame rail, and then continue it on up to the front of the car, to the other cross member, and give this thing a huge amount of chassis rigidity. So I'm going to obviously replicate that on the other side. I didn't say anything earlier, but I had this in mind the whole time. Hopefully this box in here, I don't have a piece of box tube, but this is about 2 inches, and I think box tube is pretty close to 2 inches. If it won't fit in there, I'll do a little modification, but I didn't actually weld it on the back side in here yet, so I have room to splay this open a little bit and then continue that on. So I'm going to get this to the same point on that side over there with this frame rail that I'm making, and we'll go from there. But I'm excited about the way this is going. And one other thing I want to talk about here on this side. Another thing that happened in here is I only got about 2 inches of overlay in this, and so I may go ahead and put a gusset on both sides here, just to give that a little bit more strength as well. As I've mentioned many times before, I don't care if you can tell this car has been hand built. I am very proud of the fact that I'm hand building this, and I come under criticism every week for that, and I feel like for those of you who really get it on the channel, I feel like I talk about it too much, and I don't feel that I need to justify myself or explain myself, but I really try to convey it in every episode one way or another, just simply for the fact so that people get a good picture of what we do here on this channel. I don't very often take an episode over more than one day, but I think I want to do that with this one because I believe this is probably going to be a good Friday night episode, and I try to make those a little bit longer, 45 minutes-ish or so, and I think we're probably at about 25 minutes right now. So I'm going to stop with this right now, and if you don't see this, then I just made it an episode and I cut this out. But I think what I want to do next, and I'm out of time for today, is take that template, get the metal out, take the template, cut my side pieces, and get those kind of roughed in, and work on that being the end of this episode. And then we'll do the tipping and maybe some of the assembly of that piece next. So this will be the end of part 1. Don't go anywhere. There should be about another 20 minutes of video coming right after this. Day 2 here in the frame rail project, and gonna get after this real quick here. I just need to get the sheet metal out from back behind the Oakland again. I was gonna pull the cars out, but it's pretty windy today, and I think I'll be able to just snake the sheet metal out here and get it between the Challenger and the Oakland to do the cutting that I need to do. So we're gonna get the heat fired up in here today and get after this and see how much of that metal we can get cut out and get ready for the fabricating. And then we'll hopefully get this weekend, we'll be able to get the frame rails tipped and assemble the rest of this frame rail together before we stick it in the car. So let's see what we can get done here today. So if you saw the episode that we released just a couple of days ago, we were talking about a new product that we're featuring here on the channel. And I like to put these products to the test right away. And so I was looking at the sheet metal and wondered how this SUPERCLEAN degreaser and cleaner would work. And so I did a little bit on the corner here, and quite frankly, it works well. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up with this. And the reason for doing that, again, as I've talked about before, is just simply so that we got for marking out. So when we take the magic marker, we're not ruining the magic marker tip. So, excuse me. So we'll go over this with this cleaner, and then go over it again with Prep Sol one more time, just to get any of the dirt and grime off of it. And it does a nice job cleaning it up. And I've used Prep Sol for this in the past, but look at the crap we're getting off of it. I've used Prep Sol for this in the past, and I just had never thought about using a product like this, and since I just received it yesterday, it was fresh on my mind. I've used glass cleaner in the past, and that hasn't worked real well. But there's a lot of grime and crap on here, and probably a layer of protective shipping as well. Something they would have sprayed on there to keep this from rusting. So go over it with that, like I said, and then we'll go over it with a little Prep Sol, and the marker then will not get gummed up and stop working. So I've just gone over it with the Prep Sol after going over it with the SUPERCLEAN degreaser, and feels like a nice first surface now, and I'm quite impressed with how little debris there was left, or little residue. So Kudos to that product. It's doing a good job. So I'm going to find as many creative ways as I can to put this stuff to the test and give you an honest report on how it works. Like I said, everything I've ever done with their products in the past has worked really well. So thank you, SUPERCLEAN, for allowing us to feature this on the channel and providing the product for us, and we'll continue to put it to test every chance we can. Things always do seem to grow legs around here. I don't know how that happens, but I'm missing one of my magnets. You'll notice if you watch the episode that I've done on the frame rail for the driver's side that we did, there was things that I did differently there to some degree. Not just about as far as how big the template is, but just techniques and cutting and so forth. And I'm doing things a bit differently this time, just because I figure it's good to share some variety and some different ways of doing things. So a lot of this may be redundant, but a lot of it could, or some of it could be things that you haven't seen before. So that's definitely going to be the case. Probably, well, I don't know. I'm thinking. So as always, you know me, I think out loud and I think on my feet. But I think we'll do some things a little differently. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and trace this template out. And part of what I'm doing here is I need to make two of these, obviously, for each side of the frame rail. So I want to see if I can make one here and then maybe make the other one over here and try to conserve metal as much as possible. Again, I'm going to be making things extra long, so we want to make sure that we're, actually I think I'm going to do it up here like this. That's way too long and I know that. But just making marks. Okay, we'll trace this out now. Probably going to go a little longer as well. We'll see what happens once I get going here. Propane delivery. I live in the middle of absolute nowhere, and so it's very rare that there's a vehicle. So when something's going on, I know we're getting a delivery of some kind, so they're just coming to fill up the propane for the house. I was hoping it was another FedEx shipment, but it wasn't. Okay, let's see how we can fit this one. Obviously we can go like that. We can't do anything like that. Kind of leaning towards something like this, but I waste a lot of material. So I'm wondering if we wouldn't be better off, material-wise, to just come up in here and do another one just like that. You have to remember that I need to leave myself 3/4 of an inch extra along in here for the lip, so that when I tip this edge to make that flange, I have that material. So we'll go back and lay that out in a minute. Like I said, my original plan, I was hoping I could brain went dead, sorry. I was hoping that I was going to be able to somehow snake it in here and conserve a bigger chunk of metal. But I'm not seeing any easy way to lay that out that makes sense. I'm going to be way up into that material up there if I do it this way, and I don't like that. I could come like this, I suppose, but again, I'm way up into the material. I think it makes more sense to do it like this. Obviously, all of this scrap here, I'll be able to use for other things, so you know, very little of this is going to go to waste. So we just want to take into consideration, you know, how much overlap and how close we can get these, because what I would like to do is not create any scrap, and when I put my 3/4 inch flange on here, have this as tight down there as possible. It would be lovely if I could get it in one cut to get both, but that's not going to work. But anyway, so that we minimize material waste and minimize the amount of cutting we have to do. So what I need to do is lay that 3/4 inch flange out, and if I didn't explain this, remember that the 3/4 inch flange is the top of the rail like this. Becky and I did an episode together on the bead roller where we tipped that for this curved sections of the front frame rail on the driver's side, so you can back and check those episodes out. So I went through off camera and just marked out 3/4 inch marks, and then I'm laying my template back down and I lined up all the dots, and I should be able to just trace this to get an exact representation of where we've got to cut this. So just basically using the old frame rail template to make the dots here. So there we go. So now we've got that laid out. And of course I need to come down here, and I'm just going to do this ballparkish because this is all extra crap anyway. This won't even have flange on it. So I'll cut that off before we tip the edge to minimize the amount of tipping we're going to have to do. Another thing that I've thought about doing is, rather than tipping everything, the flat part down here, I could potentially just bend by hand. We'll see. Don't know. If I cut it here, it might minimize some of the issues that I was having needing to go into the shrinker stretcher so much. So again, just changing technique a little bit, doing things a bit differently. I'm just laying this out as tight as I can here. And yes, we have a little bit of issue there where it's not quite going to be lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this here. Whoops, magnets, magnets, magnets. Kind of want those to keep things from moving around. And I'm doing this just as much to line out got an issue here because I wanted to make this extra long on the bottom edge. I didn't line things up the way I had lined them up before. Now I'm going to go with what I was doing. We're good. Second guessing myself, and that's okay. It's all part of it. Again, that's going to be longer up there. Okay, I'm going to do some double checking here and then I'll be right back. So I screwed up. Things didn't lay out the way I wanted them to, so I'm rethinking. I'm going to get some acetone, try to remove that permanent marker. If that doesn't work, which I figured it would, I've used it before, but if it didn't work, I would just sand it off. Now I got to go through and do a little bit finely. We'll get that off of there, and then we'll come back here and I'll show you what I'm thinking. Okay, so I've got the lines erased now, and this is why we spend time laying things out. In order to make these frame rails identical, this is about where that's going to be. And my thinking needs to be at this point, getting this one cut out of the way, then mark this one out and cut it out too. So we'll do these one at a time like this. I'm probably going to just take this all the way across over there to get my piece of metal more manageable. Otherwise I'm going to have a big floppy thing down here once this is cut out. So I'm either going to take it over that way or I'm going to bring it straight down, but I'm thinking I'll probably just take it over that way. Who knows? You know what? You know me. I figure it out as I go. But I think we're ready to cut. So get some flammables out of the way, get some safety gear, and we'll get after it. All right, got it laid out here now, so we'll start by cutting it here, and I'm going to use a plasma cutter to do this. Forgot to turn the compressor on. All right, the issue was not the air, it was a voltage drop. I was using too long of an extension cord, so we're good to go now. All right, only one mistake, and not a big deal because it's going to be gone anyway, but I started cutting on this line here instead of that one up there. But that's where it overlaps on the other frame, so it's not going to be that big a deal. I can just nip that off of there, and even if it did need that, I could just weld it up. So again, it's not a big deal, but glad I caught it before I got too far. So, cutting this with the plasma cutter instead of doing it with the cutoff wheel and so forth. This edge down in here wasn't right anyway, so let's lay that against the template and see where we're at now. Yep, looks good. I think I'm that way a little bit too far. There we go. I need to make an alignment mark here somewhere so that I know where we're at. Why is that off a little bit? It should be right there. Okay, there we go. Still off a little bit. Alright, I gotta figure that out. I'm sure it's no big deal. Alright, yeah, it lines up good. I just had to get my head out of my rear end here. So everything's good now. So I need to make another one of those. And I'm gonna go ahead when I go to do the tipping, I'm gonna wipe all of these marks off and create a new mark on there so I have a really good edge to follow. But it's a start. So now we got to get the next one laid out. And of course, this may be something that y'all know, but I want to make sure that I emphasize when you cut a piece out, don't use the piece you cut out to make the next piece. Use your template. Always use your template. I can't emphasize that enough, the importance of that, because what happens is if you don't, and you make two pieces, one piece is going to change a little bit because of the template, then the next one's going to change more because you use the piece you cut out, and by the time you do 2, 3, or 4, the fourth one is going to be so much different than the template it won't even look like the same part. I'm exaggerating, but not much. So always go back and use your template as your master for laying things out. All right, I think this is a good position right here. I'm going to lose a little bit of material, more than I wanted to, but I think it's the best case scenario here, best compromise, whatever we want to say, for laying this out, because I have the same length down here now, and I think it's just going to work out well. So again, we'll lay this out. Would have been nice had I not had it on time lapse and I'm yakking away to you guys. So now all I got to do is lay out my 3/4 inch flange again, and then we can start cutting this out. I've got both pieces rough cut, laid them over each other. They're good. They don't line up exactly on the ends. I don't care about that. I wasn't intending to make the ends exactly the same anyway, but now I'll flush them up and get them good. This one's off just a little bit on this end as well. Again, lengthwise I allowed for plenty extra, so that doesn't matter. I'm lazy, so I would rather go back and true things up. So then the other thing I want to do is clamp these together and then go ahead and take a grinder and just true up all of these edges and get them so they're within 90% of being accurate to each other. They're really close anyway. And of course, you know that we've got a lot of, this edge is going to be tipped. This edge is going to have two little angle tin, I guess, pieces inside like you saw in the other episode. And then of course, this will all be capped with a strip. So none of these edges have to be perfect because they're all going to be welded and ground anyway. But I still want to get them trued up a little bit and clamp them together and just make sure everything is, like I said, within 90%. This is just rough fabricating right now, just getting things ready for the next step on this. So we're good. I'm happy with the way it's going so far. So I've got the two pieces cut out. They're still clamped together, but they match each other really well. There's a lot to do there, obviously, yet, but let's get this laid out. This is a little long right now, so I'm going to take these two pieces apart. My accidental cut, I think, is actually going to benefit because it's going to help me slip this in. I want that overlap. Maybe. Kind of, sort of. Ish. You know, not nothing perfect, but kind of like that. And then it'll be down in there like so. So we're kind of lining up. I think this is still a little long, but of course this edge will be tipped to match that edge. Just get that up out of the way, I guess. There we go. That's closer to where it needs to be, I think. There we go. Something like that. So we've obviously got some, you know, stuff that needs to be done in there. But I think it's a far cry better than the old frame rail piece that we took out. And there's obviously more to take out yet, and we'll do that. But so yeah, it's getting there. So the next step then, of course, is to cut those two long pieces of straight that I need to put in the brake and bend them into the L pieces. Put them in the shrinker stretcher to match the contour of this. Make a cap that goes over it. And then what I'm going to do, and I know I'm telling what I'm doing instead of showing, but what I'm going to do is fit both of these in the car somewhat separately, get everything lined up exactly where it needs to be, tack weld it in place, take it back out of the car, weld it all up nice, and then put it back in the car. That's my tentative thought. I may change my mind, you know how I am, but this is my tentative thought now. So everything is getting there. You know, we got a piece here where that kick down is on the back of the frame from the bumper mounts. Yeah, so I think we're getting there. So basically where we started with was a piece of cardboard that did this. Now we have two pieces of metal that match each other well. And our next step is going to be tipping the edges and so forth. So there's obviously a job of work to do there yet, but a good step forward. Mark, help. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I never get around to it. And I know you're out of state for a while yet, but I got such a burn to get things done. I'm not getting the shop clean, so that's hopefully going to be on the agenda tomorrow, as well as maybe getting some of these pieces cut out. But I think I'm going to wrap it up for this episode. We've got big steps forward, and hopefully the next step you're going to see is doing the tipping on this frame. I know you've seen that before, but again, I got a few different things in mind, so we'll see where that goes. But I think this is probably going to do it for this episode. So first of all, a big shout out to SUPERCLEAN. Thank you for providing product for the shop. We appreciate that. We appreciate you reaching out to us, and we will continue using that. So insert logo. Second of all, I appreciate all of you that comment on the channel. You guys are awesome. You ask good questions, and I really appreciate the way that you get what we're about here. You know, this isn't about just replacing parts. This is about, you know, fabricating and making things and having the fun and the experience of doing something that's outside the box. This work is not that hard. And I'm just hoping I can demonstrate to you. I know some of you are out doing projects, and you're seeing what we're doing on the channel, and you're telling me what you're doing, and I think that's awesome. I wish there was a way that you could share with me via pictures or so forth what you got going on. As a matter of fact, if you would, take some pictures of what you're doing and drop it over on our Facebook page, /MyCarShop. I'd love to see the stuff that you guys are being inspired to do from what we're doing here on the channel. Be sure to check out SUPERCLEAN. Would appreciate it if you would do that. We're on Instagram, /MyCarShop. If you haven't subscribed to us here, please do that. Everybody benefits from that if you do. And hit the bell for notifications. And one more thing. Rock on.